This is Beyond the Brand with Dante Carter, where we go behind the scenes and tell stories about some of today's most dynamic brands, businesses, and the people behind them. So sit back, relax, and listen to Beyond the Brand. Beyond the Brand, Beyond the Brand, Beyond the Brand.
Hey everyone, this is our inaugural edition of Beyond the Brand on the Gram with Dante Carter, and our first guest. He's big here in ATL. He's huge in the music industry. My man, music producer, Will Power. How you doing?
Pleasure to meet you, man.
Hey, pleasure to meet you.
Did I say pleasure to meet you? I already know you. A little nervous right now. You know how it is.
Yeah. Man, you know, the whole premise of this show, man, is really just getting to know the unique stories of Atlanta. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to tell the powerful stories of Atlanta and the people that are making things happen. You know, a lot of what we're seeing here with your studio and what you're able to do. But before we jump into that, I mean, let's talk about you. Let's talk about Will Power. Where did the name come from?
Well, my name is Will. Will Washington is my full name, and I was producing. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, and I was producing there when I was younger. And one of the rappers that I was working with just kind of called me Willpower one day, and you know, we laughed about it, but he explained it to me, and he told me, you know, that it just kind of defines the way I moved, the way I was working with him, and you know, he you know, I was early into music, so my dedication to it was pretty strong, and the name just kind of stuck, man. And you know, I just kind of ran with it. Later on, we ended up rebranding it because, you know, if you spell it properly, you know, the way Willpower is spelled, we found early that it was really hard to find me online. It was hard to find me to, you know, if you wanted to research my work or research who I was, if you typed in Willpower, you'd never find me. So we ended up just kind of using the name with no vowels and pulled it together, and we ended up turning it into a brand, and it's who I am now. Yeah.
And how long have you been in Atlanta? I mean, because you've been around a while.
I arrived in Atlanta in 2005. Again, like I said, I'm from South Carolina. I worked there from 97 to roughly 2005. And I just think that it's probably the best thing I've ever done was move to Atlanta.
Yeah. You know, it was so funny because, man, I think it was, what was it, about 2 years ago when you and Mike met?
Yeah.
He was coming from the A3C conference.
Right.
And he was so excited. He was like, man, I met one of the biggest dudes from Columbia, Willpower. And I was like, Willpower. He was like, man, you know his music. I heard you sing it before.
Right. That's crazy.
And I had to kind of, you know, went back and I started Googling. And it was even funny because, you know, when I was, I think I found one of the old Vibe magazines when you did an interview. And you were saying that you started putting beats together at 19 and just kind of playing with it, and one of the folks that you like to sample is Brass Construction.
Yes.
Man, you got to talk to me about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I'm somewhat a hybrid producer, so I'm kind of old school in the sense of I started on, you know, analog machines, so sampling was a really big deal in my career. But my father raised me on those records, you know what I mean? Like in my house, part of our furniture in the house were these racks of records that my dad used to buy every Friday. And he numbered them. He was really particular about his music. But I just remember growing up with him and you know, and always, you know, knowing what was on the vinyl because my dad used to listen to the records so much. Just some of my favorite groups were Brass Construction. I was a big fan of Earth, Wind, and Fire, records like that. And so as hip hop, you know, started to evolve, and I got involved in hip hop, and I started to understand the idea of sampling records and bringing in music from, you know, other, you know, genres and different decades and generations. I started really getting into it, and I just so happened to like really. You know, dig into funk records and stuff like that. So that's kind of where that came from. Brass Construction is one of my favorite, you know, groups that I sample from.
Awesome.
Just stop for a second. This camera isn't recording anymore.
It's not?
It says it can't record. It's not a story available.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
What we could do, what we do, honestly, just stick these two. And just cut it with him and just look back into this camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet.
This should just be a prop.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just keep looking into this camera for me.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 minutes recording right now, so.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
8 minutes, sorry.
You know, you've done amazing stuff here with your studio, and really bringing a lot of artists, a lot of young artists, young rappers, young producers, and you're doing a whole lot of teaching. Even with, you know, when I was speaking with Mike and he was telling me about the beats in business and really allowing these young artists and producers to understand the business side. How important is that, and why did you feel like it was on you to really teach those skills?
For me, Beats in Business was really just my way of kind of sharing what I didn't get when I was coming up. You know, if you can imagine when I started, you know, of course we didn't have the internet and we didn't have ways to communicate ideas to different people worldwide the way, you know, a lot of people have now. So for me, I had to learn, you know, hands-on. Like all of my experiences, good or bad, were all teaching experiences for me. And so right now, what I always wanted to do was help new producers and help people who are just getting in the music business who don't know anything about it. I just wanted to kind of help provide like a platform for them where they could come in and actually talk to someone who's been through some things. I lead the course, but I also bring in people who like established themselves and have done some great things in the business to come and speak to them as well. But my main purpose in it was just to be able to, you know, just add some relief to a person who might be trying to get in the music business and just have no idea what's going on. So yeah, it's actually served pretty well. Like we get quite a few people to sign up every time we do it. It's just really interesting. It's a good thing. So.
Oh man, that's awesome. I mean, I just sit back, and I know you guys have heard us mention Mike before. Mike's a producer here.
Yeah, Mike is.
Yeah, that's been learning a lot from Willpower, his knowledge, his expertise, everything that he's just able to provide. But even when it comes to just Mike, Lamont, Mo, just a lot of these young guys that you see so much potential in. What a lot of people say, why mentor? What's in it for you?
For me, it's just to be able to see growth. You know, like I said, I didn't learn in a classroom setting or necessarily in a, you know, a person trying to give back to me type of setting. I just learned from experience, and like, I just found it to be really valuable. Now, I did have a few people who took me under their wing and showed me things, and those people I appreciate to this day. Some of the things that I learned in those instances, I still use to this day. Yeah. And so I just really wanted to do the same thing. Like, I don't have anything that I'm trying to gain. I think for me, just seeing people have a light go off, you know, off of something that they already probably knew but just didn't know how to implement it. Or, you know, as a producer, you know, we get in a creative space, but we don't ever think about what to do once it's created. Yeah. And so being able to help people just recognize those things is always like, it just fills me up. I get enough out of it, you know. Yeah. I'm also big on education. I think that when we get a chance to learn and learn properly, it really helps us to to position ourselves better. Yeah. I'm the type of guy that never really went to school for music production. I didn't know how to play instruments. I didn't know how to shoot film, video, none of that stuff. All that stuff I learned on my own. Yeah. And so if you can imagine, like, it was a gang of like roadblocks and stepping stones, and sometimes just having someone show you or educate you can save you so much time and put you in a better position. So that's really my only goal in it.
And you know, just kind of going back a second, I know we talked about mentoring, we talked about your father's role and getting you into the beats and everything. How much of your life goes into the beats? How much of your life kind of determines which artist you're going to work with? How much of your life, that life experience, play a factor in your success?
Really, all of it. Like, if you think about it, I treat music the same way I do any other relationship. I look for it to be genuine. I look for it to be fruitful.
Yeah.
And every aspect, I look to create friendships, in some cases even family, you know. So I don't know that there's any way to separate it. Like, you know, some people were born to do certain things, and I just really feel like my calling in life was to be in music in some sort, and to be able to share it with other people. So I think, you know, I hope to answer the question, is basically just like my whole life is a part of what I do to make decisions, you know. So a person really has to kind of fit, you know, just a mold of wanting to be great, a mold of wanting to be family oriented. You know, a lot of trust is necessary to do it. So it's the same. It's kind of like a relationship. It's like I kind of approach it in that sense. So I hope I answered that right.
Yeah, no. But you know, your career spanned over what?
Almost 20 years now. Yeah, it's been a while.
What is that? I mean, you worked with Eminem, you worked with Wiz. I mean, you worked with some big names. When you think about your career, who you've worked with, the music that you produce, what comes to mind?
I'm just humbled and I'm grateful. You know, a lot of these people were just, you know, unreachable as far as I was concerned in my early career, and to just be afforded the opportunity to meet some of these people and do music with them and do great things has just been really humbling.
And I was sitting here thinking about, you know, everything that you did to get to this point. So you build up Super Hot Beats, get it going, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to form this new company with my wife. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, Super Hot Beats was, it was a, you know, an early brainchild of mine, I guess. We just kind of jumped into it. We formed a production company back in 2001, I believe it was. My initial interest in music production came from being in a singing group.
Okay.
So I started there, and in the singing group, we were introduced to a record producer.
Okay.
I had no idea who this person was or what that job even was at that time in my life. And so, you know, we were entertainers and things like that. We were traveling all over the place singing and performing as kids. But I really fell in love with the idea of being able to make the music. And so once I realized what that was, you know, around 18, 19 years old, I decided that that's kind of really what I wanted to do. And so I took an opportunity to go to New York and meet with some people in the record business. One of those people was Sylvia Robinson.
Okay.
Who was the founder of Sugar Hill Records, which was the first record label, hip hop record label to go commercial.
Yeah.
And so I got lucky. I signed to her. She basically gave me my first deal, which didn't turn out to be a very good deal.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. But it did introduce me to the business of. And so when I got there, that's when I really got a taste of what being a producer is and what a production company is.
Yeah.
So she essentially had a 2-story building with about 7 studios in it. And in each studio were record producers.
Yeah.
And they all had their own room, and what they were doing all day long was bringing people in and writing songs and recording songs. And then from there, what they would do is solicit those songs to record labels and artists to, you know, so every song that we hear on the radio was bought or sold or, you know, or written to, and they also generate money.
Yeah.
And so that's when I really got the idea. At that point, I did my time there with those people, and it ended badly because of contracts and some things that I didn't understand about the music business.
Yeah.
But I ended up leaving and going back home in 2002, back to South Carolina, and that's when I started Super Hot Beats. A friend of mine, myself and Tasha Brown, partnered to form this company, and we were in business 12 or 13 years. Wow. Yeah, so it was a really good run. We did everything from producing artists and developing them. We got into artist development, which is what I do now, essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started. In 2013, I had an artist that I was working with. It was our final business venture with an artist. We developed the artist up. Things didn't really work out for us, but at that point, we were noticing a major change in the music business. CD sales and physical copies and things like that were all just kind of starting to go away.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things were changing. And so with that, we decided to take a different approach with our company. So we pretty much stopped doing that, decided to do some rebranding because over the years, we were early in the business and we were using the term beats.
Yeah.
So we had super hot beats. And then over the years, though, everybody started using the term beats. Like, I'm such and such beats. I'm using, and it just wasn't as cool to us as it was when we were younger. So we just decided to rebrand, and that's where we kind of came up with this new concept of the Great Matter Collective, which is now myself and my fiance we formed this company to develop songwriters, producers, artists, and also encompass the idea of a production company, but at a different, with a different, I hate to use the word angle, but just a different approach. We're really developing producers and artists and songwriters to be able to get them to a point to where they can actually set their careers in place.
Yeah.
So that's really our goal now, and we're doing it all in-house because the nature of my business is we produce records for people and then we solicit the records to try to get them placed.
Yeah.
Well, our new motto is to develop the artist in-house and also place the music in-house.
Ah, gotcha.
So it makes for a better program for us because now you have your own producers producing the music for your own artists.
Wow.
And it's all in-house.
Yeah.
So now we're not chasing the business per se. It's more like just coming to us.
Yeah.
So it's working. It's working.
Wow. So we have and I mean, it's just crazy because, and this is part of why I wanted to do the interview, because you start talking about all this teaching and helping that you all are doing, and it's the Beats in Business, it's the Beats in Bible Talk, it's the Free Game Podcast.
Yep.
I mean, this is a lot of information you're putting out there.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm trying to figure it out, man. From a business standpoint, it's not as lucrative as I would like it to be. I do a lot of free events, a lot of inclusion as far as information is concerned. But it's on my spirit to share it. I see so many people struggling with wanting to do music, and the music the music industry has a bad reputation. But it's really not a bad business.
Yeah.
If you approach it properly. The only problem I have with the music business is there is hardly any structure for anyone that's not in the corporate side of it.
Yeah.
So in other words, kids are out here making beats and doing creative things, but they don't have any corporate structure to it. So it's more so a hustle.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I like to share with people, is that you can turn away from the hustle of it and really turn it into a viable business. Like, producers are entitled to fees.
So I have another question, Willpower. When it comes to, things are changing because of the internet and changing at light speed, right?
Absolutely.
It's not really a sell CDs out of your trunk era anymore.
Right.
What do you tell these young folks who have these dreams and aspirations of making it big, but it's just such a different business now?
I think that everyone should be in the business of building a brand at this point. I think that this is awesome what you're doing because it actually speaks exactly to that. I feel like there's so much more to offer now. There's content, there's music, there's photography. Like in entertainment, you could just you know, you have to know that there's value in all of it.
Yeah.
With our artists, what we're doing now is like I can only speak from a producer standpoint, so I guess I'll talk from there. One of the ways that I like to tell people how to, you know, grow in a business like this is to understand where all of the monies are being made. Once you've figured out where all of the income is, then you start to find ways to buy into those things. Mm-hmm. In developing an artist, I'm no longer just making the music for them.
Yeah.
Now I'm also, you know, showing them how to perform. I'm also showing them how to book shows. I'm also just kind of buying into the whole process of making a person a full brand.
Yeah.
With that being the case, then you are now widening your ability to do business in all facets.
So, in your opinion, why do you think that's so important with the brand? Because I mean, I think from the business side, I get it conceptually. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's easier for people to look at Dante Carter instead of Carter Media Group. Mm-hmm. But for your artist or for the producers who are like, man, I just want to make music. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you convey that to them that it's so much bigger than just music?
Well, in my opinion, this is the greatest era of media that we could ever be in. Mm-hmm. This is the first time I've ever witnessed in my life where a person could, depending on how they brand themselves, could be making money without even having any product.
Yeah.
Like, there are people right now who have branded themselves so well on social media that their followers are like out of this world, and they're also, with that, they're able to sell things for people. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not because they're like anything special. It's just somehow or another they've managed to figure out how to brand themselves enough to where people want to follow them, which means we're all paying attention to them. And so all I got to do now is put a shirt on. Yeah. And now that my shirt is being seen, and that can turn into income for a person. So I just think that, I mean, I hope I'm answering that properly. I
think you're hitting on a good point, because so the crazy part is we're seeing these astronomical numbers of people following individuals. I mean, it's millions, 3, 4, 5, 10 million people following people who have essentially become celebrities in their own right. But you don't see television networks pulling those type of numbers. I mean, how many of them can we honestly say are pulling those type of numbers?
Yeah, I don't think I think that era is passing. I feel like it's just like when TV came along and kind of bumped radio out. Yeah. I think it'll always be around, but I don't think it's nearly as powerful as, you know, our devices now. You know, everybody has a device, everybody's in it all the time. So in my, you know, just from what I'm noticing and trying to engage in, you know, whatever we can do to get to a person's personal space at this point is really the move. Yeah. I think that's just where it's going. I feel like just even like the introduction of all of these new platforms for like longer content, you know, that's the move. I mean, at some point you will be watching full-on news broadcasts, you'll be watching television shows, you'll be watching music videos, whatever you want, you'll be able to do it right on your phone. We're already doing it. It's really what's going on. Right?
We're editing videos on our phone.
Right, like you're able to shoot the content, you're able to create the content and deliver the content to millions of people within minutes.
But I think people like you understand building content and creating content much better than a normal person, because that's what you've been doing for so long. Is creating content.
Yeah, I'm blessed. I'm telling you, I honestly wish though that I was more I wish I knew more about what I was doing when I was doing it. I did it out of necessity. You know, I couldn't afford to get music video shots, so I started shooting my own. You know what I mean? I couldn't afford to get a photographer to come do a professional shoot, so I'd buy a camera and learn how to shoot. You know, I'd take courses and stuff like that to figure it out. But what it did for me, it definitely set me up for now, which I'm just, eternally grateful for, the idea of knowing that through my struggle and through what I went through, I learned all these different tools that I'm able to use now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being out here right now and not knowing how to create and deliver content.
Yeah.
And I mean, and honestly, nowadays, even when people refer to music, I'm to the point now where I even refer to music as content.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it all is.
Yeah, well, and it's definitely that now, because in my personal opinion is the value of music is dropping because it's so easily made now. Mm-hmm. And so now it's turning into content more so than it is, such a heartfelt expression.
Yeah.
Things like that, yeah.
So will there, in your opinion, will there ever again be a Michael Jackson? Will there ever be a Tupac?
I certainly feel like there will be. I feel like as long as humans, as long as we still desire real emotion, that we'll always be seeking someone who could deliver it.
Yeah.
So I just think that, I feel like they're already out here. I just feel like it's so much that you have to fight through to get to it.
Yeah.
That's the issue. The issue is who's going to be Michael Jackson along with the ability to get the content to the people in a way that we all know is there.
Yeah.
Right now the only way to do it seems like with major corporations who have loads of money to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that's changing.
Yeah.
I feel like it won't be long. It's already happening though. You see people go do crazy dances and stuff, and next thing you know, they're like huge. They're all over the world. They're traveling. Got kids yodeling, man, and ending up in like Coachella.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the playing field is even now. I feel like if you're patient and diligent with creating content and working on it, you could build your brand all the way to whatever you want it to be.
I loved how you said the playing field is even. Mm-hmm. And it was, a few weeks ago, I wrote on my Facebook page, I said, the world demands diversity, and the internet has been that even playing field. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people keep saying, well, this is what people want. A lot of it has just been people in power and their opinions of what they think consumers want.
Absolutely.
The internet is telling us what people want right now.
Absolutely.
The internet, social media dictates what we watch on the news now.
It does. It absolutely does.
Even with Black Panther, Marvel.
Right.
It was so many different voices.
Yes.
It was so many voices that say, hey, we want a superhero to look like us.
Mm-hmm. The
next superhero now is Captain Marvel, and it's a woman. Mm-hmm. Why? Because women have stepped up and said, yo, we're tired of seeing men superheroes. And so, I mean, we've created a marketplace. To your point, it's an even playing field.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like that's it. You have to, and that goes all the way back to something. It's smaller, but it's real. I tell people all the time, if you, like right now, I have like roughly 15,000 followers on Instagram, and I was speaking to a social media specialist at one point. But he said something to me that was like really valuable. He said, well, you do realize that if you went outside and 15,000 people were standing behind you, you have enough people to, do whatever it is you want.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty clever. So even if it was 3,000 people or 1,000 people, it's like, that's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we have to learn how to not really necessarily approach it like, the world's going to end if it's not 1 million people. What you need to figure out is how to work the 1,000 people that you have.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that a lot of people overlook that.
Yeah.
So I'm big into metrics, man. And I think that I have a concept that I try to, implement. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, man. Everybody's talks about Gary Vee, but I was fortunate enough to get up on Gary Vee way before he was into this.
Yeah.
And so, but my theory in all of this is just, recognizing the people who do support you, and you start there. If you can make 1,000 people, if you can figure out to get a way to get 1,000 people to spend $50 with you in a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's $50,000.
It's true.
You know, and you don't have to ask for $50 up front. You could sell them a CD for $2 here and a T-shirt for $10 here, and then, you know, next thing you know, if you reach your $50 per person, you still get to $50,000 in a year, and that essentially is what the internet has done for people. It's allowed people to make middle class income or way greater from your couch. And just being smart and understanding that, you know, people, those that are engaged are the most important.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the ones that aren't engaged.
Yeah.
You know, just work on the ones that do.
And you know, that's something I tell a lot of my clients. You know, people connect with people before they connect with your products or your services. Like, it doesn't matter what you're selling if I can't connect with you, if we can't bond, whether it's over a cup of coffee or some of the issues you're having with getting to that ROI.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing. And you know, we were talking earlier about a lot of the things that I do for free. You know, and this wasn't intentional, but I will say this: I do see results from all of the free stuff that I do.
Yeah.
What I have built from it is engagement. Like, there are people who will support me and do support me whenever I have things that are, you know, that have cost involved. Mainly because you know, they've been around me 4 or 5 times on things that I didn't charge anything.
Yeah.
And so it eventually just kind of turns into a support system, you know, and you realize that that's what's happening. So
it's true.
So yeah, it works, man.
So let me ask you this. You know, we're up against the clock here, but you know, in 20, 30 years from now, when your kids look back at you, they look back at your legacy, look back at what you've done for this community, what you've done for hip hop, what do you hope they'll see?
Number one, I just hope that my integrity is intact. I really hope that they saw hard work and what comes from hard work. You know, it's tough out here, man. You know, the good side of the internet is what it is, but there's also other sides to it. So the goal is to just be as diligent and integral as possible. That's really, I hope they see that. You know what I mean? Awesome. And hopefully they'll have the keys to all of this stuff too. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
Hey man, I really appreciate you taking time to come out here.
Bro. I appreciate you.
Hey, this was the inaugural edition, man.
Hey, that's
first
good.
episode of Beyond the Brand.
Peace. Thank you.
This is Beyond the Brand with Dante Carter.